everyone. My name is Cara Simon. I'm one of the co-founders with Learn International. Welcome to our podcast, Coffee with Cow. For those of you who don't know who Cow is, this is Cow. She's our little mascot, and she likes to travel all over the world with us. And today she will be flying all the way over to Colorado to say hello to Miss Laura Thornes. Hi, Laura. Thanks for joining us today.
Hello.
Laura is the director of study abroad at Colorado State University. And so during all the mayhem going on in the world today, COVID, you name it, uncertain times, we thought we'd do a podcast series where we just check in with international educators, see how they're coping, talk with alumni students, and whoever else is interested in having a chat. How did you end up in international education?
Yeah, well, you kind of hit on it. I mean, I did, I probably when I think about like how I ended up here, it really started back with my first education abroad experience. I went to the high school exchange in Germany and came back completely transformed. I mean, really, just as silly as that sounds, as often as you hear that, that was the game changer for me. That after 6 weeks living with host families in Germany and having that opportunity, that privilege to have that experience, I came back with a lot of curiosity, and I just kept wanting to see more and do more and see what else was out there. And I came from a very small town where more the cultural norm was, you get married and pregnant out of high school, like you just settle down in a different way. And going to college wasn't necessarily what most people did. But I think that international experience was a catalyst for me to say, I just need to do more of this. I just want to see more of this, and I need to get out there. So then when I went to university, I went to University of Arizona, and I studied German and Spanish, and actually became a secondary education major. And that's when I started leading students abroad, was actually my undergrad. We'd take groups to Germany as well as later to Mexico. So then when I finished up, I worked a little while, did a year-long study abroad in Austria, and then I worked a little time in Switzerland and Germany. And yeah, that's kind of when it became just part of me. Like I just knew that international education was kind of the place I wanted to be and the people I wanted to be around. So then I became a teacher and started taking more students abroad, and that was just where all the magic happened. So I always had a dream of, if I could ever make this a full-time thing, that's what I would do. And it worked out. After I finished my master's degree, then a position in the University of Arizona Study Abroad and Student Exchange office opened. And 15 years later, I'm still here.
So being the director now at Colorado State, how many years have you been there?
Going on 9 years.
9 years. Oh my God.
I know. 9 years, yeah.
Amazing. So, when you started bringing groups abroad to now, what are the biggest changes you've seen in the field, whether it's type of programming or type of student or what?
Good question. I've always worked at like public land grant institutions, so there's been some like cultural similarities to the students, which this is also where my passion is that kind of I like public universities, public research universities, and there's a type of student that ends up there, and they remind me a lot of the student I was, maybe experienced enough, but not really worldly, and yeah, they're a lot of fun to work with.
Yeah.
So I feel like the students are similar. I mean, obviously the generations are changing, and what they're interested in and how they communicate is different, but the core is a very similar student that I've always worked with, and I really enjoy. The field is fast paced. It's evolving so quickly. I just think about, when I first started, like I say, back in the day, it was exchange programs. That's all anyone did. Universities did exchange programs. High schools did exchange programs. It was a model that everyone knew and everyone did. And even starting at the University of Arizona, it was always exchange programs or faculty-led programs, kind of two, once again, overlapping models. And now it's just exploded. We work with so many different organizations, and we really professionalized what we're doing as a field. And it makes me really proud. I appreciate how much how much we've diversified, how much we've expanded, how much we can create access for different kinds of students, because there are different models, because there are different lengths of program, because there are different organizations that support our students in different ways and recognize their unique needs. You know, we're branching into more in internships and research abroad. I just think every year we step into a new paradigm of opportunity for students. That's really fun to watch, and it's never boring. And I probably became a teacher because I like change, and I like seeing new things and watching things evolve. And this suits me even better, that it's not a static field. It's not like year after year, you know what to expect.
Yeah.
Also, the challenge of it, as we've seen with COVID, is you never know what to expect.
Yeah.
So
I think that's probably a part of the industry. I don't know, I'm speaking for myself and maybe you, but a lot of us like that kind of the challenge. It is always changing, always being creative, always thinking of different ways to meet people's needs, especially, you know, underprivileged students. At least for me, that's a big passion of mine. If I can, you know, help people who they don't think they can go abroad. So you brought up COVID, which is kind of on everyone's mind these days. Your office go remote in the middle of March. Was that kind of,
the 16th or 17th
of March. Yeah. And did you guys have a plan for this ever in your lifetime, thinking, oh, we'll have a remote office starting in March?
Oh yeah, I mean, it was at least a week before that we talked about it. Yeah. You know, even watching like all the different countries kind of fall under quarantine, it's just funny to think, like, it really wasn't till the week before that I was like, oh, that's going to happen to us.
Yep.
I could see it happening in other countries. I knew it was happening. We were already calling students home, you know, and yet until it happened, it was just like, oh my gosh, here we go. And we had a lot of new staff, you know, so that was hard, or a couple new staff. So that was the one thing that I felt regret for, was, you know, here they're just starting, they need that support network, and remote working is not quite the same. But but we've done well. I mean, everyone really seems to be in a positive place, and
it's good.
We've been working on systems and thinking about efficiencies. If anything, I'm kind of excited about this, because sometimes you just do things because you do things because that's always how you've done them. And you know, the virtual meetings and a lot of the virtual interactions we're doing, I think serve a really important purpose. And I think we can continue to do some of these even when we're back into a face-to-face office. It'll be an access point for a lot of students that we've not always utilized.
I've talked to a few other people, and they're feeling similarly. And so you were talking about all the students coming home. Did you that must have been a hard process.
you know
Kind of
it was
stop.
It was nonstop. It was probably 6 weeks of 60 hours a week, you know, where you just think, this Saturday, I'm going to sleep in and not do anything. And by 8 o'clock, you could, you know, look at your phone and be like, or I'm going to get up and to the 40 emails that came in this morning.
Oh, I know.
But it's better. Yeah, no, it was hard. I would have to say this semester has been one of the hardest in my career, just because it's the roller coaster and the heartbreak of, you know, you plan these programs for a year. You're thinking out, you're working with organizations, you're working with students, you're working with faculty a year out, and then to get them abroad and have them come back maybe only a month into their experience, or some students didn't even get to have an experience depending on where they were in the world. That was heartbreaking. And then what was really hard was the constant gut check of, we're doing the right thing. You know, we read hundreds of emails and would follow all these different media reports and really had to assess, when do we pull? When's the right time? And we had the advantage of, like, say, having a global perspective, to where we watched China, we watched South Korea, you know, so you could see this pattern. You could see that this was not going to be something that anyone gets off the hook on, but you didn't know where it was going to hit next. And you didn't want to ask students to come home too early, because this is their once in a lifetime. If they can get extra 3 weeks, great. And on the other side, waiting too long, you knew they couldn't get out. And as it unfolded, everything happened so fast that, you know, it went much faster than we anticipated. But the harder thing was talking to families, really, and parents. Whenever we would reach out to students, we'd copy in their emergency contact and say, this is where we're at. And, we may not be asking you to come home now, but you need to get in the mindset that it's going to happen.
Right.
And then sure enough, I'd get a dozen phone calls from angry parents saying, you can't pull my student out and how dare you? And naturally, they're right where I was 2 weeks earlier. Like, it's not their response was exactly where I was. Oh, it'll be fine, poo-poo. I'm not going to worry about it now. I'm not ready to deal with it. 2% doesn't seem so bad. These things you rationalize before you really stop and see the pattern, see the reflection, and see that there's some very smart scientists out there saying, this is a big deal.
Yeah.
This is a very big deal. And so, like I say, then having to kind of run through the rationale of why we're asking students to go, to come back, and all the decision, like what we call trigger points of here's a trigger point hit, here's a trigger point hit, here's a trigger point hit. And the one satisfying thing is after we went through it, many of the families would say, oh, okay, I hadn't thought about it that way. I'm going to call my student home. And that felt good, that it was like, trust me, I am one of the most risk tolerant people you're going to meet.
Right.
And I would be in the same frustrated point if my daughter was being asked to come home from her study abroad, and they just need to come home. Otherwise, they're there. And if they've got support structures, that's one thing. But universities can't necessarily support them, or the program providers can't support them when we're all locked down. So that's where they finally would make a turning point and understand there's just so much out of our control.
Yeah, I'm thinking about just the different roles you've probably had to play during this whole, leader, director, working with your leadership team, kind of playing counselor, with students, with parents, with your own staff. What do you think, it's the situation's still ongoing, but what do you think you've learned the most so far out of all this?
Yeah, good question. I think I was constantly reminded of what it means to be a leader. Like I say, there'd be days where I would just wake up and, it's like your study abroad where you're like, I don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to talk to anyone. Like, I'm sad. I'm mourning the loss that we're all having, or I'm freaking out because I'm the one responsible to make sure that everyone gets paid, and I don't know what's going to happen, right? And so you have this very real anxiety, and yet the last thing your team needs is to prop you up, right? So then I just having to, like say, work it out my own way, and then make sure that for my team and for the families and for the students that I'm as strong as I can be.
I was thinking about personal care just as leaders for you, being a partner, a wife, a mom, and all these things. Like, what is it that you find yourself doing the most right now?
Oh, yeah. Well, okay, there's self-care. The most are emails, thousands of emails. Probably the thing that I'm doing the most for me is, luckily the weather turned at the perfect time, for Colorado. Like, Colorado in the spring and summer is amazing. We do get the occasional snowstorms like we had yesterday, but the weather's been great. And we have a stay-at-home order. You can go out and exercise. So that's what I do, is that my husband and I have decided we're going to get as fit as we can in our very middle age. We are going to be amazing athletes. So granted, amazing athletes means maybe running 3 miles a day.
Hey, that's more than I'm doing. That's good.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and definitely after our long winter, of kind of being cooped up, it was a cold winter in Colorado. So
yeah,
now that the weather's nice, like we're out running, we're out cycling, we're hiking, just being outside as much as we can when the weather permits, and like kind of work gives you a gap. Which is actually working at home.
I also know you do a lot of DIY. Do you have any projects going on at the moment?
Oh my gosh, you know me so well. Yes, of course. Yeah, of course. Like all of us, we have ton of leave that we need to use. So I'm like,
Yes.
what's the big project that we never get to?
Mm-hmm.
So last winter we redid 3 bathrooms, so those are done.
Wow.
But this summer I think we're going to build a deck. So we've
Oh,
always wanted to have a
nice.
bigger deck, on our back. We love to entertain. We love to have people over. We've also always wanted to have a dog run because we dog sit a lot for our daughters.
Mm-hmm.
And so it'd be nice to have a little space where they can just let themselves out to go pee in the morning and we don't have to get up. So
Take them out.
that's, exactly. Let them do their thing. Because our backyard doesn't have a fence. So that was one thing I think we're going to work on it.
I find during this time, there's so much we can't kind of control, right? So we're in our homes, like you say, you can go out and exercise. A lot of other countries, they can't, or they can go, I know in Ireland, within 2 kilometers from their home, and the guard are pulling people over to say, where are you going? No tickets are being issued, but it's pretty strict. So I guess my last and final question is, what do you think for the future you want to see in the next 6 months happen? It can be industry related, worldwide related, whatever you want. Big question.
That's a huge question. Well, I mean, obviously, just really baseline. I really hope that the world gets to a healthier place and that our field returns to a new normal, and it doesn't have to look like what it looked like before. But I care so deeply about the work we do, and I care so deeply about the people that do the work. And when I see all these layoffs that have just had to happen, my heart breaks. And so what I really hope is that we take some lean times now, and like I say, maybe people have to reshift their jobs or what have you. We rethink how we're doing our work, and then we'll be back and up and running full speed next year. That's my dream, and I am, like I say, I am optimistic about the unknown. I do think we're going to find a new normal, and that may be good. And I think what's one of the nicest pieces of this is we've all slowed down a bit, especially in the U.S. There's that frenetic energy of gotta do. And sometimes we're just doing lateral do's. We're not necessarily moving forward, and we're giving up things that we don't realize we're giving up, right? We're giving up the quiet time, the slowing down, the writing a letter, or calling a friend that are really good for us. And I think the next generation, our younger generation, doesn't even know what that's about, right? They're obviously this is much more digital than it's ever been, but hopefully they're thinking about how to engage with people in different ways.
Thank you so much for joining us today. This has been really great chat, and I wish you and your family and CSU all the best in the next few months, and we'll touch base again soon. And so
you as well.
Thank you very much. To all our listeners, thanks for tuning in to Coffee with Cow, and stay tuned for our next session. Bye.